My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, their songwriting techniques, and occasionally getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. Welcome to episode 206. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Phoenix. The beloved French indie rock band made a triumphant return on Friday with their 7th studio record entitled Alpha Zulu. In today's episode, we're speaking with frontman Thomas Mars about the celebration of releasing a new record, writing these songs inside the Louvre, and whether we'll see them in Australia anytime soon. Here we go. Our guest today is the frontman for Grammy Award-winning indie rock band Phoenix. The French four-piece have had the world dancing and enjoying their light style of indie rock for over 20 years, and last Friday saw the release of their brilliant 7th record, Alpha Zulu. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Thomas Mars from Phoenix. Hello, sir. How are we?
I'm good. I'm really good. Yeah, it's a relief that our album is out. That's how I feel right now because it took a long time. So it's really nice.
Of course, the brand new record from Phoenix is out right now as we speak. The name of it is Alpha Zulu. Firstly, congratulations. This is a beautiful record and a beautiful addition to the Phoenix back catalogue, I feel.
Thank you. It's nice to hear. It's our 7th record. So it's true that now people see it more as a collection of. It's easier because it's hard to draw a line with 1 or 2 or 3 records, that to see where we want to go. But then I think now the more we go into this, the more people are aware of who we are and how, what our adventures are going to be like sonically and things. And it's nice to see that people are still following us.
I think there's a lot of people still following Phoenix and still very interested in what you're doing. I'd love to talk about the recording and the production of this record, but firstly, I guess, as you mentioned, it is the 7th record from the band. Do you still, where are we? I think we're 22 years into the band's history, or since that first record. Do you still get the same rush?
Since the first record.
Yeah. Do you still get the same rush?
I get the same rush from music, but then, June 30th, 2000 was the day that our first record came out. And I thought I was going to get a rush from that day, but nothing really happened. So I'm used now to, manage my expectations. So the release day it's more of a relief and it's more of a celebration it's more like our own little party more than, I feel like it's so gradual when people live with the songs, and learn how to create memories with them. That's when it becomes something, when people have experiences with the song and they connect with them. Whereas when they listen to it right away, it's hard. You don't really have, memories connected with it. But so for me, it's a little. I'm cautious about a release day and the journey, but music still does that effect to me. Otherwise, it is even more, I would say, because the world went through a lot of strange moments, whether it was the pandemic or, I mean, there's so many things happened that music was there to guide us through this moment. And I'm hanging on to it more than as much as I did in my teenage years.
The world definitely has been through a bit of a weird period in the last few years. I know that from what I've read, what I've researched, the band, you yourself and the other guys from Phoenix, you weren't looking to kind of make music while separate, while not in the same city, that you kind of waited until you were able to get back together as a band to be able to create the music and compose the music for this record. What was that first interaction like when you saw the guys and were able to kind of musically speak to one another?
Yeah, there was a lot of frustration because we used to see each other every 2-3 weeks maximum, and then all of a sudden we were separated for 10 months. I think we always made a point to write music together and sort of obsessed with the chemistry that we have, and that chemistry creates the music, and it's not any one of us coming with a song that's already written or something, because we find it more interesting. That process is more interesting to us. It's also, we're coming up with ideas that are passing the test of time more than just other things that are a little bit more preconceived and less unique, maybe more familiar. But so the four of us being away kept us from making music, but at the same time, it sped up things, because when we got back together, not only there was an urge to make music and to make up for the time that we lost, but there was also tension because the pandemic was still happening, so we were not sure how long we could stay together. And we were also in this studio in the Museum of the Louvre, which was already a miracle to be there, and it happened to be empty because of the pandemic. So we were on our own in this incredibly beautiful yet dystopian place, making an album that we didn't have to find the theme for, because the events were so dark and there was so much going on that the music was just flowing, and we came up with a lot of things really quickly compared to previous records. So it's very intense. It was stressful but intense, and it felt like exciting and unique that we were living a moment that was so that we'd never experienced before, and we were aware that we were not going to experience something similar soon. So we were trying to enjoy the process as much as we could, yet we were worried that we wouldn't be able to stay in the same space for a long time together.
I can very much appreciate that. I did read, I think that most of the record was completed in the first 10 days. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's Chris probably said that, because Chris really knows, he's sort of the archivist of the band. So whenever we record, he listens to all the files and everything. So he's more aware of these things. But I guess a lot of the first ideas or the first were born really quickly, 10 days to 2 weeks. And then after, it's ridiculous. When you make a song, you spend 99% of your time finishing or making a demo sound professional or sound like something decent. It can be a very frustrating process but I know so many people that go through that same idea that 90% of the song is there in the first 10 minutes, and yet you have to work for another year or two to finish the last 10%. And it sounds ridiculous, and you feel like you're losing your mind, and you feel like what you're doing is there's so much entropy and there's so much friction in the system. You feel like you're questioning the method, you're questioning everything. And what was soothing is that once the pandemic was sort of over, and the not really over, but that people that worked in the museum could come back in the museum, we realized that the people working there, their job was a similar job to us. They were obsessing about these details. They were trying to find the right piece of cloth to match this costume from 1500 or something. And their life was dedicated to something that was their passion, and they were obsessing with it. And it made us feel better about us obsessing with spending, 100 hours on a compression sound to 1,000 hours on the bass sound of one song. I'm exaggerating, but it's way too much. And you feel like it's the pandemic, so you're not an essential worker. You feel like you're questioning, like, is it even decent to be doing these things? But when you're in this community of people doing this for their obsession, and you feel that it's right to or you feel validated by the fact that you're, well, at least many doing this.
Of course. I would love to know. I've read certain stories of the recording of it. As you mentioned, it was in the Louvre, where you were kind of almost by yourself, that it was closed off due to the pandemic. And I think, what was it? Napoleon's gold throne was very close, or right near the studio door. What was that kind of, what was it like having all that kind of history surrounding where you were recording?
It wasn't intimidating. It was really freeing. And
this season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
It took a lifetime to find the person you want to marry. Finding the perfect engagement ring is a lot easier. At BlueNile.com, you can find or design the ring you've always dreamed of, with help from Blue Nile's jewelry experts, who are on hand 24/7 to answer questions, and the ease and convenience of shopping online. For a limited time, get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com. That's $50 off with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com.
I guess it was also easier because we were alone in the museum. And at some point, even the art invited itself in the studio, because all these exhibits that couldn't happen, the pieces of art that were supposed to be in those exhibits moved in our studio. Our studio became the storage space for a lot of these things. So it wasn't, I guess it was pretty ideal, because usually the environment doesn't really inspire anything on our record. It feels pretty detached. But here I realized that the path to go from my apartment to the studio reminded me of like our youth in Versailles, where there was beautiful architecture, beautiful surroundings, and it was kind of a cleansing, creative shower going to work. And all these like small things that you see every day would be a little bit of your Swiss Army knife in terms of how it would come up in those songs, or in the vocabulary was a little bit inspired by, there's a song called Artifact. There are few things on this album quoting art or even the music video or the album cover. And so it did sweat a little bit in our creative process.
I'm glad you brought up Artifact. I was going to be a little bit selfish, if possible, if you'll allow me. I was going to.
Yes, of course.
Artifact was my favorite track on the record. I thought it sounded, it's classic Phoenix. It does sound like it is of this new record though. And I did love the falsetto from yourself in the chorus or in the bridge. Sorry, I thought that was beautiful. I was wondering if you were able to just, I guess, give us a little behind the scenes on where this song came from or the creation of this song.
Yeah, this song there was a previous song that existed that had that verse, the similar verse, and somehow it wouldn't fit in the record. We couldn't finish it. We were struggling and we kept finding, 40 different choruses, bridges, and so that drum loop and that chord progression of the verse, we liked it so much. We tried. There was another song that had the same one, so we were circling around this idea and we couldn't find anything. And then when there's an urge and you're sort of going towards the end of the album, we have a whiteboard at the back of our studio with all the songs that will make it on the album and all the ones that we're not sure. And when we looked at the whiteboard, it started to feel complete. There were already 6 or 7 songs in there, so there was only room for 3, because every album is 10, and we know that we don't have that much time because we spend so much time on each song. And so when we look at this thing, we were like, it's one of our favorite things, so we have to find a way to keep it in the album. And all of a sudden, it's one session that the 4 of us were on the same wavelength, and we really tried, and everything came as it is. So all the lyrics came right away. There was no mumbling or anything. I'm looking for an artifact, a piece of me that's still intact. Looking for an artifact, what part of me can still attract you? That everything came like this. So I feel like we worked really hard to get this moment of, really easy stream of creativity. But there was so much work done before that it could only happen with that tension of that fear of losing something that we love that wouldn't be on the album. So we sort of saved it. That's why there's a lot of lyrics about falling and Niagara Falls and stream and shores and things. Because a lot of these things you feel like you're losing them, or that they are not, that you have to rescue them from because we've seen, this is our 7th album, we've seen a lot of things not making it, and we're more obsessed with editing almost now than we are with creativity.
I do love that song, so thank you very much for indulging me and allowing us to discuss the making of it. Thomas, I realize it's a bit of an unfair question to ask, because I'm sure that every time you do press in another country that they always ask this. Obviously, Australia does have a little bit of a love affair with Phoenix. I think you were last here 2018, so it has been a little while between drinks. Can we expect to see Phoenix down here in Australia at any point? Let's say in the next year, in support of the record?
Yeah, we're working on coming. Yes, the next year, yes. I can't promise, but it'd be very sad if we are not. So yes, we have to make it work. The reality now is that the music industry and touring is very grim. There's all these bands that there's a lot of musicians I know that can't tour anymore because the model is not sustainable. It doesn't work. So the reality of it is also, when you're a band, it's even harder because it's hard to keep bands are a bit of a extinct, species a little bit these days. And so, yes, I'm sure we'll make it happen because we still manage to tour and to set up our tours and everything. But it's not as easy as before to be, to come up with things that work. And we need a little help from, it helps that there's festivals that are struggling. There's festivals that are being canceled all the time, whether it's because there's not enough people going there or because there's insurance won't pay for global warming, for the fact that they might be canceled because there's a storm or something. So these are all things that we didn't exist before and that we're all discovering. I'm discovering, trying to plan a tour. I'm seeing that this is a new world. The good thing, I think, is that the shows are maybe even better because we take them less for granted, and I think people take them less for granted because they miss them, and it's every time we come to Australia, people know we live at the opposite side of the globe. So when we're there, even before going on stage, it's exciting because we know we're there only we'll come once for every album every 4 or 5 years. So the show is already, it's not the case when we, it's other places where we played many times.
I would agree with that. We do realize that we are almost worlds away from other countries, and so we appreciate it when bands do come down. So we are very excited for whenever that does happen. We're excited to see you here. Lastly, Thomas, we would usually ask our guests what they're currently listening to, if there's anything that's currently on high rotation for yourself.
I'm gonna be a selfish, not our own music, of course, but Porches is open for us on this last tour, and we picked Porches because we were listening to the Everything Aaron Does is interesting. So we always, but then when they came on tour with us, we watched the band play every night, and it got even better. All these other songs grew up on me. And now the entire discography is there's no fillers and there's no. So yeah, I like Porches. I like some of the things in the top 10, which is rare. Like the top 10 now, like Steve Lacy, Bad Habit is a great song that's done on a cell phone. That's very encouraging because there's a freedom that, I was glad that when we started, we could make music in our bedroom with samplers and with things that make it sound good. It seems that now there's another layer there's more freedom because you can make an album on your cell phone. I'm a little worried that once people figure out what makes a hit on TikTok, that, it's going to ruin the songs a little bit, that all of a sudden every song will sound the same and we'll move on to something else. But this kind of song and what's in the top 10, it's even like, there's even great song from the past being fished out of the ocean these days, because there's a whole culture that there's a whole way for them to shine again, which is pretty refreshing. It's pretty nice.
I would agree with that. There's a number of songs that seem to be, having a second life on TikTok, and it's nice to, I guess, appreciate that some brilliant songwriting is everlasting and doesn't kind of lose its shine. So brilliant picks in terms of what you're listening to. But Thomas, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on Alpha Zulu.
Thank you,
It is
Simon.
a brand new record from Phoenix, but thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Thomas Mars and Phoenix for their time. Alpha Zulu is out now, and we've left links in the show notes if you'd like to buy the record. We also want to give a huge shout out to Nat at the PR Files for helping out with today's interview. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Wednesday and Friday morning, and we now have a Patreon, which you can find within the show notes of this episode. You can follow the Players profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Are you ready for some hoops off?
Are you ready for some hoops off?
This is legitimately what you see people do right before they're going to fight. They take off their hoops, their earrings, because they don't want to get them ripped out of their ear, and they get ready for battle. Hey, I'm Liz.
And I'm Karen.
And you're listening to Hoops Off from Luminary.
On this show, we take our hoops off to bring you the spiciest, the saltiest takes on each week's games. We'll also be reading books by our favorite players, reviewing Shaq-sponsored products.
And of course, we'll be bringing the tea.
Should I prepare the hot water?
Oh, you better prepare the hot water. Please make sure to follow the show on your favorite podcast listening platform.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.